Hello everyone and welcome to another Doctor Who action figure review. For today's review I shall be taking a look down memory lane at one of the Forbidden Planet exclusive sets which was released in 2014, and it is the Claws of Axos set. This set comprises of three different figures from the Jon Pertwee era. So we have a Jo Grant figure, which was the second variation of the character that we had in action figure form from Character Options. We have another Brigadier, and we have the first and so far only release of the Axon humanoid. So we're going to go through all of those figures, starting off with Jo. At present time of recording, I do not own the original version of Jo, which was released as part of the Three Doctors set with another Brigadier and a Gelgard. This is the second time that we ever got a release of Jo Grant, who was played by Katie Manning in the series from 1971 to 1973. If we take a look at the outfit that she's wearing here, I think that it is very much accurate to how she wore the outfit in the story as far as I can remember. So you've got a mixture of pink and brown here and there, like a mustardy brown, and it works very well for this sort of dress that she's wearing, and it's very nicely detailed. You've got the buttons, you've got the pockets, and you've just got this here which like just goes over her, and it's like a sort of neck piece in a way, and she has like this little badge just there, and it's very nicely detailed. If we just take a look at her face, I think that this is quite a good likeness to Katie Manning. They have done two sculpts of her head. This is the second one that character did. The first one looked a little bit off for me, so I think that here they've captured the likeness very well. I don't really know if you can tell on camera, but I will say that it looks much better in hand than it does on camera. The hair is very nicely sculpted as well. Obviously it just goes over her shoulders and you've got waves of it here and there. Looks very much like how Katie Manning did back in the early 1970s, and obviously you got a fringe over there. Eyes are painted brown, and it's like a nice wash of like a dirty blonde, and little streaks of black here and there just to give it that dirty blonde look. Going down, she has a lighter pink paint job which has just been done on her skirts, and the same goes for her cufflinks. And on both hands she has these rings on all of her fingers, and that is what Katie Manning had on her hands and most of the shows that she was in. Whether she wore them in this particular story, I cannot remember for the life of me. If she did, then I'd say that it's pretty good attention to detail, but I know that this was also on the original release, the Three Doctors release. Legs are pretty standard. You've just got her legs showing, and then she has these nice boots, and it sort of repeats the whole colour scheme of what you see on the full costume. She has a pair of purple boots, little creases here and there, and she is a little bit of a pain to stand up, but otherwise this makes for quite a good figure. And actually reviewing this sort of makes me appreciate this figure a little bit more, because I always sort of thought it was kind of average as a figure, but now actually it's one of the better figures that we've had, and it's certainly a better likeness to Katie Manning than the original Katie Manning figure that we got before this was released in 2014. The same head sculpt was applied on another Jo Grant figure, which came out a couple of years later in a B&M set. Unfortunately, I do not have that figure to compare this to, so this is the only Joe Grant figure that I have, but that's fine. We go off articulation. There's quite a bit in the head, and if you force it, it can actually do a 360, no problem. There's articulation at the shoulders, and they're ball jointed so they can go out like so. There's articulation in the biceps and in the elbows. There's a 360 swivel at the wrists. The legs can move out slightly, but it's hindered by the skirt, which is made out of PVC. The legs can sort of move out a little bit from side to side as well, and just under here you may be able to see that there are articulation joints at the thighs, although do be careful because, as you can see, some joints can be quite loose, but if you just gently push it back in, then you shouldn't have too much issues here. There's articulation at the boots, and that is pretty much it for Joe Grant. So overall, like I said, pretty nice figure to have, and I'm glad to have this in the collection to add to my Third Doctor era. Looks very nice alongside my Third Doctor figures. And another figure which I'm about to review right now, and it is the Brigadier. Now, similar to Joe Grant, this was sort of the second Brigadier figure which was released by Character Options. The first one, he had a different uniform, as in the Three Doctors, the Brigadier wore a different uniform in that story as opposed to what he wears in the Claws of Axos. And the Claws of Axos came out almost 2 years before, so this makes complete sense. Looking at the head sculpt, you can see that the likeness to Nicholas Courtney is uncanny. This is one of the best ever likenesses that they've ever done in the line, and it's up there with the likes of the season 18 Tom Baker figure and the Roger Delgado Master figure. One thing which is really good, and you can't really see this on camera, which is a bit crap, but he has a unit badge and it's all nicely detailed just there on his beret. The beret is also nicely detailed with this mustard brown. You got all the creases in there, and the bottom of the beret is just painted black. It's like a black band. The hair is nicely sculpted. It's just all a plain black. What I will say is this likeness to Nicholas Courtney is much better in terms of paint applications as opposed to the one that we got in the 1970s collector set, which was a B&M release a couple of years ago. There was a lot of detail lost in that figure, but here there's much more detail and there's much more to admire about this likeness, I feel, because that figure, there was a lot of things that were lost in the paint applications and all of that. Here you've just got a few bits and pieces on the shoulders, sort of to signify his rank. His collar is painted in like I want to say it's like a light green. Sort of looks white in certain angles, but I think it looks like a very, very light sort of lime green. And his uniform has got all the creases in, and it's just all one green colour. You've got bits of like the lighter green on the belt, in the pocket there where he places his gun, and you've got them just at the elbows there. And again, you've got the buckles which have been painted in gold, and same goes here, just at the centre of his belt. and his legs are painted in a different shade of green. Really makes it look like he's part of an army. And his shoes are a dark brown. And yeah, I think overall this is one of the best figures to have in the collection. I think it's so good. It's one of the reasons why B&M are re-releasing this figure in the upcoming Unit 1971 set, and ironically that Brigadier in that set is based on the Brigadier as seen in the same story, but it will have different paint applications to this, so there will be a comparison between this figure and that figure when I get my hands on that, which hopefully shall not be too long away. This figure also comes with one accessory, and it's his gun, and it fits very nicely in his hand there. Nothing too much to talk about, it just looks like a standard gun accessory, and they come with a lot of these action figures which are made by Character Options, but you know, it does the job. And yeah, it fits very snugly inside his hand there, or glove I should say. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the gloves here are painted black, and I think the new one which is going to be coming out, I think they have brown gloves, so you know, there's going to be a difference in variation from all the pictures and videos that I've seen so far. Going off articulation, the head, I think it can do a 360, but I don't really want to force it. It feels a little bit loose on this figure. The shoulders can do a 360, and like Joe Grant, the arms can move out to the side, they're ball jointed. There's articulation points at the elbows and the biceps, and the wrists are able to do a 360. The legs can move out from side to side, much more articulation in the legs, and they can move back and forth. There's also 360 at the waist. There's articulation in the thighs and in the knees. And that is pretty much what you get with this guy, and it's very similar with a lot of the other Brigadier figures. It's a very good base figure to use for Brigadiers, seeing as his outfit changed from time to time in between stories. So overall, yeah, I'd say it's probably been one of my favourite figures to have in the collection. Finally, we're going to talk about this guy, who's so far like the only one-off that we've had from this set, seeing as the other figures have had re-releases or were re-releases, and it's the Axon Man. Now, there's not much to go on in terms of detail with this guy. He's wearing like a leotard, and if you look very closely, they've reused the body which was used on the Sharazjek figure. I can just tell by the sculpt and everything. So I can understand why they've done this though, because these guys looked a little bit plain and they were wearing these costumes. Obviously Sharazjek had the black outfit, whereas these guys have like the white outfit with all of these sort of gold patterns all the way around them, and you know, it makes it look unique on the shelf. And then the only other difference is the darker paint tone of gold that they've used on the heads and on the wrists. But as far as the rest of the bodies go, look pretty standard as far as I'm concerned, but I think the head sculpt looks very nice. Looks like one of the Axon Men from the Claws of Axos. So yeah, gets a pass from me. The sculpting of the hair is very nice. And yeah, not much to go on with detail. One of the most notable things about this as well, though, is the feet. The feet sort of feel a little bit weird, and like Joe Grant, this is a sort of weird one to try and stand up, but if you just get him very still like that, you can just display him like that. But if I just moved him slightly, just give him a little nudge. Oh, he's not doing it now. Right, just give him a nudge like that, then he could fall over. And if I did the same to like a more standard figure like the Brigadier, who has more stable legs and stable feet, he shakes a little bit, but you can just keep still. So that's a sort of detractor from the figure. And also the legs want to stay together for some reason, which just looks weird, so I'll just move him apart like that. This guy has quite a bit of articulation, so we'll quickly go through this. The head, very simple, does a 360, no problem at all. Shoulders are ball jointed, biceps, elbows, wrists all have articulation. The wrists obviously have 360. The legs can move out from side to side, very flexible as you can see, and it can move back and forth but not too much. There's 360 in the waist, there's 360 in the thighs, and the knees can go back and forth. So I'd say that the articulation as a whole is very, very similar to the other two figures that come in this set, but I'd say that because of the context of what this character is, this has the most articulation out of all three figures. So overall, I'd say it's an alright figure. I wouldn't say it's the best figure in the world, but it's nice to have another enemy from the Third Doctor era on my shelf. And that's the end of this review. Thank you very much for watching this review of the Claws of Axos set. I'd say that it is a very good set. I would highly recommend you get it. Although these days it is quite rare to get, so good luck if you really want to get these figures. Although there is a new variant of this Brigadier which is coming out very, very soon. As always, thank you very much for watching this, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more of these reviews. And until next time everybody, have a nice day and cheerio!